Okay, this is Moshe, and it looks like we've got live stream. And I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, and today is Shabbat. Nice day. It's going to be warm. I'll check real quick, probably in the low 90s. No, worse, 95, so it's going to be pretty uncomfortable in the middle of the day. It's going to be 90 degrees at noon, and then 95 by 2, just for an hour, and then it starts dropping. And then tomorrow we go to 94, then 92, then we go into the 80s. So finally, we might hit that point I've been talking about where we just stay in the 80s, not the 90s, which is nice for us because you generally don't need the air conditioning, or if you do, you put it on for 3 hours or something. When the sun bears down, like probably around noon, 1 o'clock till about 4 or 5, it could get hot here, so you might want to run the AC then, and then open the windows with the cooler air and let the fans blow or something like that. I don't know. It's not, there's no uh, set formula. Um, okay, what I'm going to do today is I'm not going to pay much attention to what the people that want intel on the wars and stuff are interested in. I will cover the news because it is important and there's a bit of it. And then I want to go through why you people are not rejoicing and feeling happy right now. And I know that some of you are. I do. But I know that a lot of you aren't. And the ones that are not a tiny amount either. They're a bunch, okay? But there's probably a bigger bunch of people that are scared, worried, confused, concerned, and you shouldn't be. And that's what I'm going to deal with today. People that don't understand prophecy that are following churchianity are not going to be able to relate too well with what I'm going to do today. If they pay attention, they will pick it up, but they probably won't pay attention. If they were the type to pay attention, they'd probably be, well, they could be because they found their way here. They might be, yeah, they could be. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Uh, so we're going to cover the fires. We're going to cover the drought in America. That's substantial. I'll give you the statistics. And that's in the prophecies, and we're going to go through those prophecies, and we're going to go through the prophecies of Israel, Judah first, and then the Goyim, and we're going to apply those to what's going on. And Egypt threatened full war with Israel if they attempt to assassinate Hamas leaders in Egypt. So apparently, Qatar is going to transfer or has already transferred um, the to Cairo in Egypt. That's what it appears to be. Turkey probably said, "This is too hot to handle, leave me alone." And they probably sent them there. Well, they would probably put them on a military flight or put them on an airliner and block out the whole first flight. Bodyguards in there and have stewardesses stand there and seal the curtains so nobody could see who's in there, and then do a reverse seal of the curtains and get them off the plane. Well, probably last, so nobody would know who they were. Uh, or they might take them off first. I don't know. Or a military plane is a lot easier. But how many military flights go from Qatar to Egypt, a private plane. I don't think they have the guts to it. Somebody might try taking it down with signal jamming or electronic warfare and say, "Oh, no, we don't know what happened. Their equipment failed. What are you talking to me for?" That could, that I'm just shooting a guess here. So they threatened full war, and they said that they're going to suspend. I don't know if they said they would suspend it already, or they're going to suspend any cooperation in explaining military movements, things like this. So they're getting ready to go to war with us, which is prophetic. Okay, because Egypt, from the Nile River going to the right-hand side or east, depending how you like it explained, is Israel. And the Nile River goes all the way down to Lake Victoria, which goes through, Uganda, Kenya, and stuff like that. So we get pieces of Uganda and Kenya also, and Sudan and South Sudan pieces, and you get Eritrea, Ethiopia. It's not all, most of it. Djibouti, Somalia. You get a lot. Okay, Israel gets a lot. So, Egypt has yet to go into that 40-year diaspora. This will be it. Okay. So, and we're also going to talk about what Netanyahu did now that Mossad's not happy with Netanyahu. Trump's not happy with him. He said Netanyahu wants to tank the ceasefire. Now, we're going to explain why. See, the ceasefire Netanyahu's tank would work like this. Is it a ceasefire where you do this, that, and the other thing, and we do this, that, and the other thing, and everybody stops fighting for 30 or 60 or 90 days? No. It's a ceasefire, and the ceasefire kind of perpetuates itself as long as negotiations are going on, and it's supposed to lead to a permanence. And that scares the bejeebus out of Netanyahu, because if that happens, the Supreme Court, they're really after Netanyahu, they know this, and the Attorney General knows how bad he is, okay? So there's three branches of the government. One is executive, which is him, and we know that's horrible. The other branch is the legislative, which to an extent is for him, but not completely. And I think some of his previous supporters are getting pretty sick and tired of him, because it's all about Netanyahu, not about the people. So he would sink the ceasefire to drag out the war. But a ceasefire that stops the fighting and negotiations continue, as long as negotiations continue, there's no resumption of the war. Well, that's going to mean a long period of negotiations, probably, and the court's going to say, Netanyahu, it's time for your trial, stuck again here. So he needs another war. So that's why in my opinion, think he's keeping the Houthis in Yemen in his back pocket, and he's not knocking them out, because if something like that happens, then he'll start going down there in Yemen and blowing stuff up that gets them sufficiently mad to make a war with Israel, and thus keep them out of jail. They're pretty far away, and it's unlikely they can do a lot to Israel. So it could be a safe war. I don't know. What's an unsafe war? Well, Iran could be unsafe, of course. 17% of their missiles penetrated our defenses. Now, I would assume that improvements have been made, fine-tuning the tracking systems and stuff like that to the Iranian missiles. So maybe that's going to go down to 8%. Okay? Maybe it'll go in half. All right? But maybe not, because they may have improved their missiles too. And they may have missiles from China and Russia that our defense systems are not used to, so we don't know how that's going to work. So it could be that maybe they get nothing in. Maybe they didn't get missiles from China and Russia. They just got anti-missile systems and radar. Very possible. Likely even. So then what? Well, then they would get maybe 1, 2, 3% of their missiles in or nothing. But we don't. Okay. Netanyahu doesn't care. He's not going to get killed. I don't know why they didn't. You know, they did. They did try to hit his house in Caesarea. They missed it. They'll try again, I'm sure. But he won't be in it. But they could blow the house up. But he'll just get the government to rebuild it or something. You know, get a. It's not going to be seriously inconvenient. It'll be bad. You lose your clothing, your furniture, your pictures, your papers, you know, stuff like that. If he doesn't have that stuff secured in a heavy safe, if he has a heavy safe, a serious safe, and the missile doesn't directly blow up the safe, it blows up the structure and the walls on the safe, it's not going to hurt the safe. The serious safe it wouldn't do much. It would scratch it up and stuff. That's about it. You know, a Price Club, Sam's Club gun safe. Yeah, that's junk. I mean, you know what those gun safes are for? You got to really understand them. They're good for stopping junkies that run around and they're hyped. You know, they're on edge. They know they need a fix soon, and they don't have money, and they need to go to work. So some of them will shoplift, although they're usually going to get picked up shoplifting. They're going to be acting weird, and you know they're not going to do well. And then, what the heck are they going to shoplift that's going to get them enough money to get a good fix? They'd have to shoplift some pretty expensive stuff, and then they got to go sell it. So when you break into a house, the idea is you're going to usually get cash, although that may or may not be the case. People might have a big jar of change, or a big bowl of change, quarters, dimes, nickels, and you know that can get up to enough money to get well quickly. And then they'll steal other things like jewelry, computers, maybe find phones, tablets, laptops, guns. It depends, you know, anything, you know, that looks like they could put it in their pockets or on their person and walk out with it. You know, if they take a pillowcase and they put it in a pillowcase and they walk out there with a pillowcase over their shoulder, and the police see them walking around, they look like a hype, and they got a pillowcase, well, they're going to stop them, and that's going to be pretty easy, you know. But if they could, you know, if you're walking around with a tablet or a computer, necessarily, so, you know, at all. You know, so they're looking for jewelry, cash, and narcotics. They might, what do they want with narcotics? Well, you go in a house, a lot of people have pain pills left over from a root canal or from an injury, or they take them on a regular basis. They're cancer patients, or they've had surgery recently, or whatever, right? So they could get, you know, oxycodone, they could get hydrocodone, they could get morphine, uh, they could get antidepressants, antidepressants, Zoloft, Prozac. They like all this junk usually, you know. But predominantly they like central nervous system depressants, which is the narcotic kind of stuff, right? The stuff the doctor has to write a special prescription for. He can't use his regular prescription pad. That's what they want. And they just take it right there. They'll throw 3 or 4 in their mouth, get hit water from the sink, and take the pain pills, because that gets them. It takes really till they fully affect 20 minutes, but it'll get them. In maybe 8, if they got an empty stomach, 8 or 10 minutes, they'll start feeling the effects, especially if they find some liquor and they add liquor into it, they'll get the effect maybe in less than 10 minutes even. So, but they're not in the house for 3, 4, 5 minutes, maybe not even that long. They go fast, okay? So if you have a gun safe, most of the time you're not going to be able to do anything with it. What you can do with that, look at YouTube videos. Take it, turn it down, go to the back wall of the gun safe, get an axe, and smash it enough times. Sledgehammer should bend the metal sufficiently and break it open. A big sledge. But you're looking at 8 or 10 minutes. And then when it's, they got to bend the metal, you need a crowbar. Where are the tools? Maybe the guy has the tools, maybe not. You can use a sawzall, but you probably got to have a diamond grit on the blade. And you could use an angle grinder. Again, you probably need a very good blade. And some people have those. And if you have angle grinders and sawzalls and you got safes laying around, well, you should do something with those sawzalls or angle grinders, like lock them up somehow, or chain them or something, or use them again. But we're getting confused between a junkie that just is walking around looking for a house to break into, and then they're going to run away. They're going to get out of there. That's that if you have a Sam's Club safe, you're going to stop them. They're not even going to try to get in the safe because they know the time is going to be long. What they're going to do is they're going to go to your bedroom. They're going to look around at the nightstand by the beds, open it, dump everything on the floor or on the bed, look through it for any valuables. They'll go to the medicine chest in the bedrooms. They'll go to all the bedrooms. They could see a medicine chest in or drawers in the bedroom and look for drugs. They may look in the refrigerator for drugs, maybe. They'll go for codeine cough medicine too. Codeine is a lot like heroin, so they'll go for that. And they'll look at electronics they could pick up and carry out. They'll look for guns they could pick up and carry out. Rifles will be hard for them unless they're in a car or something, but they may take rifles. And what else can they look for? What else? I don't know. That's probably about it. They'll be in there 3, 4 minutes, maybe, and then get out of the house. So, don't get a false sense of security with those gun safes. Okay, so we're getting drought in America, so we need to start talking about rising food prices and things like that and what to do. But we will cover that. All right, so I'm going to go into, and we're going to, we'll do the news, and I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream. And make sure everything's okay. We'll do the news and everything will be okay. Egypt should know better, but they don't know better. But the going to war with us is contingent on us attacking Hamas leaders in Egypt. See, Egypt's a stinking enemy of ours, and Netanyahu uses them and Qatar, both enemies of ours, for negotiators. You see, Netanyahu is also an enemy of ours, as I see it, in my opinion. He serves the God of the dead, not Jehovah. And that's why he's an enemy. He's a lie. Okay, let me put a post up real quick, and it'll be quick. All right, let me get this up. I do take questions. You can put them up in the chat. And I do come in periodically and check for them. Make sure I don't have any typos. Nope, I'm good. The red heifer, the red heifer is not necessary if you read prophecy. It goes back to the Levitical, uh, where there was a high priest, a Kohen Gadol, which is no longer the case because Yeshua shifted that to Judah. So there is no more. I mean, if you read Zechariah 13, our sins are removed in a day. Israel's sins are removed in a day. That's not red heifer. So the red heifer, first thing is you need to understand all the red heifers they got proved to have flaws. Okay? And there's a reason for that. So I wouldn't pay much attention to the red heifer. And they were genetically modified red heifers too, by the way. And I don't think it's correct at all. There's going to be another temple, but if you read Ezekiel 37, the last three verses, Ezekiel chapter 37, the last three verses, you'll realize that it comes down from heaven. And it's not New Jerusalem. It's not built. And the mountain that the temple's on also comes back, which is not there now. Ezekiel 37, the last three verses, and you'll realize it for yourself. Okay, I've got a different agenda today, so I can't really get into that part of the prophecy, but if you go through my YouTube channel on the live section, you'll find a lot of videos, and you could see there's a lot of prophecy stuff there. Okay, being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise, which is rarely ever done, using the correct names of the Messiah and God, of course. There is no God like Jehovah. There is God like Jehovah. There is no 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 Messiah like Yeshua. 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 There is no Yeshua. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. Okay. So, a little quiet here today. I didn't think we were going to get that many people in. Most of the people just want to tell on Middle East wars and things of this nature. Okay, and we will cover that. The drought in Vermont, the state officials asked the residents to report dry wells and water shortages. Now, that's just one state. There's a lot more to come today on this subject. The UN passes a resolution to establish a Palestinian state without Hamas. This was the General Assembly. It was non-binding. The Security Council would have to make this binding. That did not happen. The United States did oppose it along with Argentina and maybe Brazil. 10 countries opposed it. 142 countries voted for the Palestinian state. Praise God, we're well on our way to fulfilling prophecy. Every day, anti-Semitism and hatred of Israel is rising. Why? Because Satan's the God of this age, not world. The word that they mistranslate on purpose is ion, and it never means world. It always means age, never means world. Cosmos means world in the Greek, okay? So it's a mistranslation on purpose. It's age. The age is closing out. So read Hosea 6, verses 1 and 2, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Remember, Peter said 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. So it's a 2,000-year punishment in Hosea 6, 1 and 2 I'm talking about. So it's closing out. And the nations are all led by Satan. There's no righteous nations. And they're trying to get, Israel to give land to people worshiping another God that's not a God, and get Jehovah mad at them and hoping Jehovah will punish them. Now, if they come in and just try to take the land and hand it over to somebody else, well, that's not a sin on Israel. Israel's resisting it. No, God gave us the land. We have no right to give it away to heathen. Well, then God may very well fight for them, and that's what's scaring them. Okay? So they're trying to just, hey, we're the nations and we could override God. God made a covenant to give us the land from the Euphrates to the Nile. That piece of land is about 100 times bigger than what we have now. And they don't want it. So either God's going to win or they're going to win. You can figure out who wins. God doesn't lose. There's a lot of drought warnings in the U.S. right now. The White House, I'm going to be bouncing around a little on the news, but the White House said they're frustrated with Netanyahu. Fear he wants to tank the ceasefire talks. He does. I explained that already. He does want to get rid of that. He doesn't want a ceasefire. Now, this is the trouble we have with Netanyahu, and the people in Israel are sick of this, the ones that are awake to it. He originally wanted to do a ground attack on the Hamas leaders in Qatar, and he tasked the Mossad to do it, and the Mossad refused because they felt it would endanger the lives of the hostages. So I believe what the Mossad probably told Netanyahu was it would be near impossible for us to do this, not get caught. So it'd be very hard for us to escape. And we would get caught and would bring a lot of problems down on Israel, and they would, execute us or whatever. So they probably said something like that. But they might have said, because Netanyahu is so evil, they might have just told Netanyahu, no, they'll kill the hostages. We're not doing it. They could have done that too. That's the impression that I'm getting from reading the newspapers about this in Israel. So then what Netanyahu did is he had the Air Force launch missiles into the building where they were meeting. But apparently the missiles hit just after the meeting broke up. So he did kill some people, but we're not sure exactly who got it. There was a funeral with 6 coffins, 5 Palestinian flags. So 5 Palestinians got killed, and 1 Qatar security person, a bodyguard or something, got killed. So Netanyahu and the Israeli government has still not yet released any official statement as to who they killed and what happened over there. So it could possibly be they're waiting another day to get the exact scoop as to what happened, or likely at this point that Netanyahu is just not going to ever tell us because he looks bad. He's a piece of garbage, okay? The lowest form you could imagine. All right. So we don't know what he's going to do, but the fact that the Mossad went against him is very, very good. More and more, there were protesters again Friday in the streets, and thousands about this piece of garbage. If the hostages do get killed, what happens? He riles up the troops in Israel. We got to go kill them. They're dogs. Let's go. Right? And what does he do? He's going to blow more real estate up. Who the heck ever won a war by blowing up real estate? Nobody. It's a complete moron procedure. Yet he does it, and the people read the paper and say, oh, he's getting that Hamas. He's blowing their buildings up. In a few more days, it'll be 2 years he's been blowing their building up, and he never finished off their tunnels. Why? Because I would have finished them off. And then he would have to face the 3 criminal cases, which could give him 16 years in jail. And after that happens, he can't be prime minister anymore. Then what happens? Then the Attorney General starts an independent investigation of what happened on October 7th. And Netanyahu and his gang would be getting prison. In my opinion, they would suffer penalties for that. What would I think? Life in jail or close to it. And I don't think they want to go through that. So that's one reason they're keeping Netanyahu in place, because they're afraid that if Netanyahu is gone, then they could get up the flagpole for October 7th, letting it happen. They didn't do it. They didn't false flag it. They let it happen. And at least 1 million people in Israel are aware of that. So he did an investigation with the military, which is like really stupid, From September 3rd to September 9th. So we don't know what Netanyahu is going to do next, by the way. Hamas hasn't killed the hostages. I think his plan would be more real estate destruction that will drive Hamas into the tunnels. He's using heavier bombs, according to the people in Gaza, than he usually does. So he's probably using 2,000 pounders. And they're going to get driven back into the tunnels where they got plenty of food and bottled water that they stole. They can probably stay there at least 6 months, if not a year, without any further food. So they're in the tunnels, and he's going to not be able to get them out of the tunnels. The war will keep dragging on, and he will keep telling the court he's fighting a war he can't come to court. And the people don't want to do the coalition breakup against him because a lot of them are scared that if he goes to jail, he'll take a lot of them with him. And they're complicit with him too. They don't know, see, Netanyahu's not the type of mean, nasty, that's what he is, a mean, nasty person. He's not going to just quietly go sit in jail for 2 or 3 or 4 years, although it has a 16-year maximum penalty if he gets convicted on all 3. But I think it'd probably be more like 2 or 3 years or 4 years. And he would probably get out in 2 or 3. And you think he's just going to go sit in the jail for a few years and let his buddies run free, go eat out in fine restaurants, drive beautiful, take vacations in the Mediterranean resorts while he rots? No, I'll drag him down. What this moron should have done, but Satan probably put him up to this, what this idiot Yahweh should have done was went to the Attorney General and said, listen, lady, I hate you and you hate me, but let's bury the hatchet. I'm old. I'm going to leave politics. You leave me alone, I'll leave politics. I'll resign and go away. And I think she would have done it to save the country from this idiot. He's kept us in a war for 2 years, this moron. Okay, does whatever Satan tells him. He has to. Okay. So September 3rd to September 9th. Conditions worsened in every region in the eastern half of the United States, including the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, South, Southeast, and Midwest. However, there were a few Eastern Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky. As of September 9th, 30.11% or 30% of the U.S. and Puerto Rico, and if you're just going to go for the 48 lower states, 35.9% of the 48 states are in drought, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor. You go to drought.gov, DR, okay, so it's Delta, Robert, Oscar, Umbrella, Golf, Hotel, Tank, drought.gov, okay, that's their site. So you're at about 36% of the lower 48 states is in drought. And in the last month, the increase in drought was slightly over 20%. So it rises. Okay, and that's in the scriptures, and we're going to cover that today, actually. So 36% roughly of the lower 48 states are in drought. 87 million people are in drought conditions. 87 million people. 40 states the drought increased over 20%. Well, that's in the last month. And these figures are from September 3rd to the 9th, so by now it's already getting worse. But they only run the figures once a week. And there's other statistics. There's over 100 million acres of agricultural land that's food producing that's in drought now. Over 100 acres. And something, I think, like 40 states have some level of drought in it. And that's prophetic. That's in the Bible. Okay, let's get the Bible scriptures for drought and the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, which is America. I will get those. I'll use my AI to get it for me. It's quicker. I use Grok and I use the Chat GPT. I have the free Chat GPT. I have the paid Grok, which is $29 a month. Not that I'm that well heeled, but I need it as a tool I really need. And I have the Chat GPT YouTube video summarized, which is $5 to $10 a month. So I don't have to watch videos to know what they say. I just turn it on and then do something else and come back in 4 or 5 minutes, and I got a good summary, scan something, and that's it. Okay. All right, let's get it. Jeremiah 50, verse 13. This is a lousy translation. Let me get it in King James. Jeremiah 50, okay, Jeremiah 50. Because of the wrath of Jehovah, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babel, or Babylon in English, shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. So I don't understand why they put that in there. Let me be more careful before I give you the verse. Oh, it says the land will be a dry land and a desert. Okay, that's in a different translation. Jeremiah 50, verse 38. That's actually mentions drought. Usually I tell it to do King James, and it does, but it gave me a lousy translation this time, sorry. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. Okay, like the Statue of Liberty, for instance. that also seems to appear on the roof of the Capitol building, you know. And then they name the Capitol after this idol, which name is Columbia. Columbia Motion Pictures has something like the Statue of Liberty there. It's probably it. And it gives you the name Columbia, and you know that DC is not in any of the states. It's different. So they call it District of Columbia. Well, they dedicated the capital of the United States to this demon idol. That's what they did. Okay, back to drought in the scriptures. Jeremiah 51:36. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead your cause and take vengeance for you. I will dry up her sea and make her fountain dry. Her streams or rivers dry is what it's saying. Okay? That's how you get to a drought, by the way. You got to dry the waters up. So we got three, well, you got the drought scriptures there. There's two good ones in Jeremiah 50 and 51. So we've established drought is in there. And now we've established drought is happening by the U.S. government's own declarations on their own website and stuff, their own people. Now, you're not going to see the major news networks get there and say, well, to inform you that drought is growing in the United States and everything is going according to the prophecies of the destruction of America in Jeremiah 50:51 and Isaiah 47. I hate to report this to you, but it looks like we're all going to either have to leave America or die here in the very near future. Yeah, you're going to see that on TV. Okay. If a TV station in America ever said something like that, that would be the last broadcast. They'd have guys with, the guys with guns would come down there and shut the station down. The, which one? What do they call it? FAA's Federal Aviation Authority. FTC is Federal Trade. They have another one for the broadcasters, but you got special agents. They come and shut the place down. Okay. They'd call them on the phone and tell them they're going to put them in jail if they don't stop it immediately. That's probably what they would do. The Mossad's, okay, we covered that. Trump now flip-flopped, which is normally what he does, bringing the National Guard to Chicago. Of course, he was getting resistance, so he kind of punked out and says he's bringing them to Memphis, Tennessee now. So I guess there must be intel that somebody intends to storm Elvis's mansion, maybe? What the heck is he doing Memphis for? I don't know. Maybe they got problems in Memphis. I have no knowledge. Now listen to this. In the middle of everything, you got to listen to this, okay? It's not, the news has you put everything off and isolate it by itself. But no, you got to listen to it as a group of events. Japan has experienced the strongest tornado in its recorded history. 168 miles an hour, I believe, is what it was. They classified it as a JEF3, which is their system, which goes up to a 5. This was a 3. And it's the largest they had in their recorded history. They never had a 4 yet. I believe it injured 69 people. Left a trail of physical destruction, of course. The hardest hit area was, I gotta try to pronounce this, Mackinac, Yoshida. I used to be able to do a little bit better with Japanese, but I can't read it. I can still count Nisi, Sanso, Yo, from the karate days, but I can't. Well, pronunciation of some of these things is a nightmare. Mackin O'Hara. Okay, it's Mackin O'Hara and Yoshida, where they apparently took the damage. Vehicles were overturned. More than 1,200 structures were damaged. 1,200 structures damaged. How much 1,200 buildings is? In New York, on a city block, there's 3 apartment buildings, usually. There's a lot of damage. They started recording this stuff in 1961. So it's, you got to add all this together and put it together. Let me go check the live stream real quick. We got a few people in. Okay. So this was not a lightweight, strike tornado. And I don't even know if it's tornadoes out there. I don't know. God's not really in love with Japan, They got a way of life that's, in the ways of the world, it's a pretty decent way of life, but it's very anti, and they're anti-Israel now too. They're very anti-Israel. Well, of course, they're satanic. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to switch back to fires. Fire was reported in Santa Barbara County on the 12th, yesterday. And I think on the 11th, they got another new fire that popped up, or more than one, in Los Angeles County. The fires are starting to pop up by the cities. Okay? It's getting closer now. Let's look at the relevance of the fires popping up near the cities and the scriptures about this in Jeremiah 50 and 51. I know the answer, but I'll read it to you. I'll get it. It's quicker than me going through the websites that I get from Google and trying to see which one. Some of these websites eliminate the scriptures that they don't want you to read. You got to get an honest website, and this is more easier and more direct, and it doesn't filter unless I tell it to. Jeremiah 50 verse 32. Now I got King James. And the most proud shall stumble and fall. Those who most proud you say goodbye. They run around like they're the children of God. We'll have more about that later with Monaco. Um, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle, who? Jehovah. I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. So the fires are going to be all around about him and in his cities. And we're getting there now. Now we go to Jeremiah 2, verse 25. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith. I don't know where that little yappy dog lives. It's probably a nice dog. Maybe the guy next door put a dog on the property or something. I don't know. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the one. Saith the. I got to read this in the real Bible. I don't know. It's confused. Run on. Jeremiah. The words run together. I don't know what the heck the thing did. 51 down to 25. 16. 20. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain. He calls it a mountain because America is such a big country. Saith Jehovah, which destroyeth all the earth, all the land. Then that could maybe not mean the earth, but destroy Israel, the land of Israel. What's the word for that is pirates. Okay? And I will stretch out my hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks and will make thee a burnt mountain. Now, a burnt mountain has the direct, strong, like concrete, strong implication of fire, right? Okay. All right, but we'll do better than that. Let's go back. We'll get more precise, but there's definitely fire in that scripture. And now we go to Jeremiah 51:30. The mighty men of Babel have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might have fallen. They became as women. They have turned her. They have burned her dwelling places. They have burned it. California fire people saying half their fires are arson. They have burned dwelling places. Her bars are broken. Jeremiah 51:32. And that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burned with fire, and the men of war are affrighted. Affrighted is the way of saying they're scared, right? Jeremiah 51:58. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the broad walls of Babylon. I believe you can interpret that instead of broad, long walls, which is what? 2,000 miles of walls between Mexico and America. Then that's the only walls I got. Shall be utterly broken. So the Mexicans will come in and break the wall down. That's pretty easy to understand, and it could happen today or any day, you know. And her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. Well, America's pretty weary, and the firefighters are certainly weary now. They're getting worn out. There are a lot of them are being deployed outside of their county. Normally you don't have state firefighters too much. You have them to fight state land, right? But normally you have city and county firefighters, right? And then they have mutual defense treaties with other services. So if they get overwhelming fires, you'll send a certain amount of equipment and firefighters to go help the other state. Okay. So we've established the fires. All right. And they're breaking out now close to populated areas. Kentucky farmers' harvest is struggling after being hit by worsening drought conditions. It spells bad for the fall foliage for the crops. All right, let's look for famine in Jeremiah 50 and 51. Okay. Sure, let's see. No, it doesn't actually mention famine in Jeremiah 50. By implication, the drying up and drought would probably lead to at least rising food prices. Jeremiah 51:43 says this: Her cities are a desolation, a dry land, and a wilderness land, wherein no man dwelleth, neither doth any son of man pass thereby. So you're already out on the next great Exodus. And the rest of them call it dead. So the famine is not something I think in Jeremiah 50:51 we have to be that concerned with, but I want to check somewhere else about this. Just want to make sure. Okay, I'm searching here. Matthew 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Earthquakes are up. There was a 7.7 several hours ago off the coast of Russia. Okay, so we got famines there. Um, Mark 13:8. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. That's protests, disturbances, riots. These are the beginnings of sorrows, birth pangs. And then again, we'll see it in Luke 21:11. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, so expect big ones, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs from that shall there be from heaven. There shall be from heaven, right, okay. All right, so famines is a concern, right? All right, let me explain a couple of things. Let's talk about that. First of all, you're not trying to play the survivalist game where you're going to dig in for 5 or 10 years and America's going to be nuked and then you're going to be hiding in your bug out location. And, in a year or two, you're going to come out and the radiation levels will be gone and you have your iodine pills and then you and your family are going to rebuild the country and all. Okay, forget all that crap. All right, that's just garbage. You don't need to be planning on having food for long term. Um, this is Israeli stuff, but I keep stuff like this around, right? Okay. So, how long does the can like that last? Well, if it's an all metal can, it's probably going to last you 15 years, 25 maybe. Now, this particular can isn't so great because it has the peel off lid. But I would say you would get 5 to 10 years out of this anyway, hands down. People in recent years have gotten K rations from World War II. You can find them on YouTube. Okay? They've gotten the cans. And usually 2 or 3 out of 4 of these cans, you're talking 80 years, 85-year-old food. They open it up. The guy smells it, he looks at it, and he eats it and says, wow, it tastes good. And those are not peel-off lids. Those are can openers. So it's a somewhat better seal. So you might only get 5 years out of this, but what do you really need? 5 months? 5 weeks? Come on. You don't need survival food. Survival food is junk. Okay? It's not good. It's powdered food. They dehydrate food. Soupy Sales used to tell a joke. He had a thirst pill for people that were thirsty. He had to cure their thirst. So said you take this pill with a gallon of water and you won't be thirsty anymore. It's a joke. Not a very good one, I guess. But okay, they take the powdered food, right? Do you know it causes pretty acute constipation? You need that like a hole in the head, you know? You ain't going down to the store and buying X-Lax, You're not going to have a lot of fresh fruit to eat to reverse it. So you don't want to mess with that. It's how healthy can it possibly be? And then you need water to rehydrate it, which could be an issue when you have these cans, peas and carrots, green beans, corn, uh, spinach, okra, whatever, right? It's got water in there. And that water sits there with these plant vegetables for years or months. It's got minerals in it, that water. You eat the water, drink it, whatever, with the vegetables, and you're in good shape. I have asparagus, corn, sweet corn we got here. You can get all kinds of stuff like that, okay? You don't need long term. You don't need 200 cans of food. Get yourself some can. My wife cans. We got loads of this stuff. Um, you want a can? Can. You know, it's not that difficult. You want meat? Get a dehydrator if you could afford it, and dehydrate very thin slices of meat, also known as beef jerky, right? And then get a vacuum sealer and put it in a plastic bag and seal it in the vacuum. How long would you get out of that? What do you need? Probably get a couple of years. You don't need that long. You don't need years of this, okay? You're not going to be hanging out there, wondering how you're going to eat and where you're going to get food for many years. It's going to be a relatively quick period of time. I don't know how quick, but you can just buy yourself a bunch of extra cans, right? You can buy dry cereals sealed in those plastic bags they have. They're good for what? 5 years, 10 years? Years. They'll go for years. Okay? More time than you need. All right? The cans, you can get canned soup with meats in it, organic if you like. So now you're getting some liquids and you're getting cooked vegetables and whatever, right? They have canned bread. I don't know how good it is. They got canned pasta, cheap too. That's not such a bad thing to get. You're going to get a high carb load, which could be useful if it's cold and you're moving around and doing stuff. The carb load is nice. So you get different kinds of pastas with cheese sauces and stuff like that. More carbs even. Cheap, cheap. So you can make your own beef jerky, and believe me, that's plenty of protein. Can you take hard-boiled eggs and can them? I don't see why you couldn't. But if you need protein, okay, what can you get? Get the metal cans of tuna, salmon, sardines. You want it in water? Get it in water. You want it in oil? Get it in oil. But just get the all metal cans. If you got the peeled back lid and that's all you can get, they don't sell the can opener kind, you're still going to get a long run out of that. You'll get years, I'm sure. Okay. You want to buy a jar or two of mayonnaise? Go for it. Make sure you got salt and pepper. Yeah, you don't need all these kinds. Got salt and pepper, you're in pretty good shape. You want ketchup, get ketchup. You want mayonnaise, mustard, get it. Garlic, onion powder. Yeah. So you can can all kinds of stuff. You can buy all kinds of stuff in your regular supermarket. Okay, that's it. And you could go to the cheap places that sell food and buy it. You can go to Sam's Club and Price Club and buy big cans. But you gotta be careful with the can. If you're two people and you buy a 5-pound thing of peas and carrots or sauerkraut or something, sauerkraut's real good to get. Nothing wrong with that. Well, let's say you get a 5-pound thing of peas and carrots and there's two of you. You're probably not going to be running a refrigerator. What are you going to, maybe you will, I don't know, but when you open it up, I mean, It may take you 2 or 3 weeks to eat it all. I don't know what you're going to do. You don't want those 5 and 10 pound cans if you got 3 kids and yeah, okay, that starts to make sense. So your kids want to have a snack instead of giving them Oreos. Take a paper bowl out or a bowl and dump a bunch of peas and carrots in there for them. Here, here's a snack. They'll hate it in the beginning, but they'll get used to it. What's wrong with that? Nothing. So you need protein. You can get the fish pretty cheap. Sardines are fine. Lots of protein. Salmon, that's my favorite. Tuna, very good as well. You are not going to go into protein deficit disorder with that. Forget it. You're not. Okay? Carbs. You need carbs. So what are you going to do for carbs? Well, you can get different kinds of crackers that are sealed, right? All kinds of things like that. Cookies, crackers that are sealed. You're not getting really good, clean carbs for eating carbs, okay? How else can you get carbs? Bread's going to be difficult. You can buy cans of bread. And what do you do for water? You want to have extra water. You drink bottled water, you drink bottled soda. Cheap and easy. When you finish your water or your soda, rinse it out and fill it up with your tap water and close the lid back and put it someplace. That's all. You'd be surprised how many of those bottles you can fill up. You can play the survivalist game and buy uh, jerry cans, which are plastic things that you could put any kind of liquid in. Specifically, they make them for gasoline usually, but when you buy a new one, it never had gasoline in it. You could take a hose and rinse it out real good, which I would recommend. And like rinse it 5 times, fill it and dump it out like maybe 5 times or more. I don't know, depending. You know, uh, shake it up. It'll have dust and whatever in there, and then fill it with water and put the lid back on, and now you got 5 or 10 gallons, and buy a few of those. You'd be surprised how much water you have. Now you go through a lot of water too, so if you're going to plan on a scenario where God's going to definitely be doing this to kill everybody, including you, I don't think you're looking at it clearly. He's not. Okay. So when you do the fish, by the way, the water is not extra fluid with the food and helps with digestion and bowel movements. But if you get the oil, I would recommend that because that's carbohydrates, and it also helps move things through your system. And the carbohydrates are going to be helpful to you. You're going to want carbohydrates, especially in winter. Potatoes you can get, you can get through the winter with just potatoes without doing anything to them. Just buy, sacks of potatoes, right? Now, there's a million ways you can cook potatoes. You can put them on a barbecue grill. You can put them on a stove with propane, and you can cut them, French fried potatoes. You can bake them in an oven if you got one. If you got a solar oven or something, you can bake it. A lot of things you could do with it. You go out and buy, 25, 40 pounds of potatoes. You'd be surprised. Carbohydrates. And if you had a lot of potatoes, you're not going to starve to death. You're getting some liquid in there. You're getting fiber in there. You're getting carbohydrates in there. You're not going to die. You're just not going to die. Forget about it. Okay. And if you start mixing it with sardines and tuna and vegetables and stuff like that, guess what? You're going to feel pretty chipper. You're going to feel real normal. Okay. You don't need to eat beef and chicken to make it, okay? Like a lot of us do. You don't need to, okay? I started doing a thing a few years ago where I would just get sandwich meat, chicken and beef predominantly. I would just eat a few pieces of sandwich meat, like 2 or 3 a day, and not even every day. And you know what? I didn't even miss the meat. That was enough to meet my need for meat. I did it like 3 times a week. I'd eat this sandwich meat. This is all I needed. I never noticed a difference. Now, I tried going vegetarian and I noticed that. I didn't like it. I didn't feel good. But it didn't happen just with eating a few pieces of sandwich meat. The hard boiled eggs are good, and you can can those. Okay? But I'm not, telling you to go there and, like these survivalists and build years worth of food. I don't think God will do that to us. Because not everybody's going to, okay. If he really wanted us to do this, what would he tell us? He would tell us, there's a famine, stockpile your food. He hasn't told us. I'm not telling you that because God told me to tell you that. I don't think. Maybe I am. I'm not really aware of it, but I think that, some of you are going to be worried and concerned. So buy some excess, food and have excess water. How much? I don't know. I'm not, don't go spend your fortunes on this and work on canning and kill yourself and stuff like that. My wife likes canning. She's been canning for years. Years ago, she started canning. We built up a lot of it over years, not over a weekend, but years. You know, you say breads and cakes and pastries. Yeah, you got to get a vacuum sealer, and you could seal the stuff in there, and you might. I mean, some stuff you might only get 9 months or 6 months. Some stuff you might get a few years. It's going to vary. What kind of stabilizers the product has, things like that. When you can, the bugs don't bother it. And when you vacuum seal, the bugs don't bother it. I've never seen bugs that rip open the plastic and get in there. Might, but I don't, they may not either. They may not even bother. It might not register them as usable food because it's got that barrier and they wouldn't understand it. And they don't know they could rip through the barrier. It might, I don't know. I have no idea. A rat would, a mouse would, but that's a rodent, that's not a bug. Rats and mice will eat through cardboard, things like that. So famine is in there. So is it a good idea to get some extra food? Yeah. How much? I don't know. 75 cans or 650 cans. I don't know. You got to ask the Lord. But it's probably a good idea to start doing this. Okay, to have extra. Okay. You can easily learn how to can on YouTube and get the equipment. Glass jars are what's usually used. That's a problem because of falling. But I can do a way to reinforce glass jars without a lot of trouble or money or time. You buy cheap duct tape and you wrap it around the glass jar, starting right under the lid. Try to get 2 layers and then put a couple strips over the bottom, across the bottom. So if you drop your jar and it's got weight in it with food, you'll be surprised what a difference the duct tape will make. Now, let's not get stupid. If you're putting them in a shelf, say in a basement or a house with a tile floor or a concrete floor under it, well, let's insulate that. How? Well, you could take broken down cardboard boxes with its 2 layers of cardboard and put them on the floor, hold them in place with duct tape or something, so if there's an earthquake or something and the jars fall, they'll hit the uh, the the cardboard, and if they got the duct tape on them with 2 layers of cardboard, they're going to survive. Or you can take old towels and rags and put them there, or buy old carpet or find old carpet and get some pieces cut with a knife that will stay there, so if anything falls off, it lands on the carpet. And if you really want to insulate it so you don't have to put the duct tape on your jars and stuff, get foam. Get 2 or 3 inches of foam and put it down there and hold it in place with duct tape if you want. When it falls on the foam, it'll be okay. The problem is a bunch of these jars fall, they'll hit each other and it won't be so okay, but you'll save some of them. But if you duct tape them, they're probably going to survive. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But duct tape will enforce them. Maybe some of the real precious ones you want to do that way. And of course, if you put them on the lower shelves, if you're using shelves, there's no real where are they going to fall and get hurt. But when you have a jar full of liquid and food and it falls even 1 foot on a hard floor, it'll break. But on carpet, I got it. So you got to put some insulation down to make it soft. There's a million things you could use. Towels. I mean, just you can test it. Take a jar filled with water and tip it over and see if it breaks when you put the insulation in. If it does break, the pieces are going to be all on, controllable. You can pick it up, get rid of it, and then you don't have enough insulation. That's just if you really want to go the extra mile. You may never need that, but avoid the survival guys. They're going to sell you garbage. I don't know what kind of nutrition you're going to get. And what do? You get your plastic tub of dehydrated food and you open it up. Okay? And what if it's bad? You're not going to open it up and test it because you're going to break the seal. And why do you think it's healthy to eat powdered food? Is it going to taste good? Yeah, it'll taste good. But does that mean it is good? No. I mean, candy bars taste great. They're no good. What do you want that stuff for? It's not a good idea. So, what else can you do? Look, if you just bought potato chips, right, for carbs, Lay's and Y's, how long are they gonna go? 2 years anyway? Look at their expirations. They'll go a few years. Munch the carbs, you got salt. You're not going to be worried about gaining weight. You're going to be worried about losing weight and not having carbs and not having energy and stuff like that. So you can buy, you're not going for a 5 or 10 year run. That ain't going to happen, okay? So you don't need them and their survival food, 25-year shelf life and all that. There's gourmet survival foods that people sell where they get meat and they boil the meat or something and they put it in cans and they sell this stuff for small fortunes. And you can get gourmet survival foods and stuff. But I know people have been buying this stuff for 20, 25 years. So, they've kept it, let's say they have it it's 25 years, they've had it for 20 years, 23 years. I don't know. What are they going to do? Eat it to see if it's still good? You can buy military K rations, okay? If you really want to just and they're usually balanced meals. They usually aren't going to taste so great unless you buy real expensive ones. And they're going to last for quite a few years. At least 5 years, I mean. But people eat World War II K rations. Now, the K rations, they eat all the time. That's pretty common. And that war was over in the early 70s. That stuff's ancient, like 50 years, right? They eat that stuff all the time. You're not going to have a problem with it. There's military K rations and there's private industry K rations, and they have all kinds of blended meals in there. They got meats in there and stuff like that. And you get a dessert, you get vegetables, you get a bread or crackers, you get a protein. You get a balanced meal. It comes with packets for tea, coffee. You'll have condiments in the packets like salt, pepper. They're not cheap. Wealthy people generally buy those, and you don't need to heat them. Although a lot of the more expensive ones, now you're probably spending $8 a meal now or something like this, right? I'm guessing today. So people that go camping are the ones that buy these. They're going away hunting and they're going to be gone for 2, 3, 4 days after they buy these. Somebody's not going to really want to go out and buy 250 of these. It's going to break your bank, But they're self-heating. When you go to open them, you pull something and it has these chemicals inside the container that heat up. These things are usually big like this. Usually they're like that or something. And you pull it or push it and it starts the heating process. And in a few seconds, you've got a hot meal. Now, the military likes to give their soldiers a hot meal. It raises morale and they fight better and they march better and stuff like that. The old days, I had to put the can of the K ration on a burner and burn it with something and heat it up, and it took minutes, and it was a pain in the neck. It wasn't a great idea. So, yeah, maybe it's time to buy some of this stuff, Um, walk around the store, don't overreact and jump, but think about it. And, if you just want to start and you want to keep it simple, buy soups with meat and vegetables. Try for organic because they put a lot of garbage in the other soups. Nice big can, metal cans. Get peas and carrots, get asparagus, get string beans, get peas, get different kinds of beans, whatever you want, okay? Buy a bunch of those cans, go to the cheap, the dented can place, make sure the dent is not penetrating it or harming the can. It has to be intact. Now, the shelf life on the dented cans, and get different cans of vegetables and buy your sardines and your tuna and your salmon, but don't use any of those plastic cans or anything else. Just want metal, preferably the kind you need the can opener. Okay, peel off metal, all metal, no plastic. And then get boxes of crackers, cookies, cakes for carbs, and sealed in plastic, the wrapper it comes in, which is going to keep it for a few years. And that's it. You got minimal stuff, and then when you finish milk bottles or soda bottles or anything, you can put water in there and you'll have extra water. You'd be surprised how quick it builds up, Or you can buy plastic buckets that are 5 gallons, and they have a pretty decent sealing lid. You bang it down. It's going to evaporate over time, but it's going to take a while. And you can buy a bunch of those, If you know something bad's going to happen, you can fill your bathtub up with water. It's probably not going to be great drinking water, but you could use it for other things. Probably get sick because it's going to have soap and shampoo and stuff in there mixed in. Probably get sick. We You do that in hurricane country, so you fill your bathtubs up and then you pour that water in the top of your toilet and use it to flush the toilet. That it works for. If you want to water flower pots or things uh, for food, that would work for that. Um, you could use it to wash your hands, wash your hair and your face. It would work fine for that, but I wouldn't drink it. You know, you could boil it, but you're still not going to get rid of the chemicals from the soap and the shampoo by boiling it, so you're not going to accomplish a tremendous amount like that. You can buy water filters and you could fill your bathtubs up and they would, if you pour it in these filter things, you'd be probably okay. You know, that's okay. Um, so it's probably a good idea to start stashing some stuff, you know. It's also a good idea not to tell people about it. Um, you know. So all you're doing is you're bringing a few extra bags of groceries into the house, bring the car in the garage, shut the door, or bring the packages up into your house, and it's just going to look like supermarket packages. Nobody pay much attention, and then if you got an apartment, just find a place to put it. You can put it under the bed, you can put it in a closet, keep it out of sight. You know. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Tens of thousands join anti-Israel march in New Zealand. Parkland. Okay, you see, it's getting like, Hitler in 1939. Okay, it's getting ready. Okay, it's coming. Every day we get closer. Way, Egypt is a dangerous country. They have a large army. They got a lot of tanks. They don't have state-of-the-art tanks. They don't have state-of-the-art aircraft and stuff like that. They got a lot of missiles. The next door, in 10 minutes, they're rolling into our border. Yeah, we can blow them down, blow up their tanks with planes, and but it's going to be a bloody battle. You understand? It'll be bloody. And the Houthis would like nothing more than for for tens of thousands of them to come up and join Egypt in attacking us. And Jordan will join in. And Turkey may join in. And that's your Zechariah 12. They do a siege against us. What they probably want to do with the siege is they're afraid to attack us because it's been done many times since 48 and they always lose. So they're scared of Jehovah, so they won't attack us. They'll lay a siege on us and tell us we'll stop the siege if you do this, that, or the other thing. Create a Palestinian state, leave Israel. I don't know what they want us to do. But they'll try to get us to force us to do something, and that's when the two witnesses burn them up. Gold is doing very nicely. Earlier this morning, it was $3,659. 29. So it's staying well ahead 3,500, which means we need some current event bumps, and gold will go to 4,000 and over. I think gold could easily get up to 10,000. Not that hard. Okay? It's not. When I was a kid, it was 35, 37, it was about $35. Even when I was a teenager, it was like $35. So, 100 times more valuable now, you know? Are things 100 times more expensive? Well, people in Connecticut, somebody there was telling me that in that area of the country, a slice of pizza is $4 or $5. When I was in high school, it was 15 cents. All right, we did the drought. Now we got to go to, let's cover to the, I'm going to help you understand prophecy. Well, I've done this before, and I'll explain it to you. To the Jew first, then the Goyim. This thing keeps giving me screens I don't know why. Oh gosh, get out of this. I got so much trouble with this app. The app is Grok. It gets me in pages that I don't want to be in, and I can't get to the page to stop. Maybe I just punch one of these things out. Yep, I got it. And now I got to do it. Okay, great. Okay. Now I hit Romans 1:16. I told it to do King James. Yeah, it did. Okay. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Mashiach, for it is the power of God unto salvation to every one that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. Salvation to the Jew first, then to the Greek. So why do you have the true gospel now if you're not part of Judah? Jew means Judah. Why? Can you tell me why? I'm confused. I don't know why. If you're not part of Judah, why do you have the true gospel now? Can you help me with that? Because I can't find an answer to it. So it would mean you're all Judah. But I have no scripture I can come against that argument with. Do you? So you got to give into it if you can't find the scripture against it. Right? Okay, so I give into it. I don't know what else to do. Romans 2, verse 9 and 10. Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil, which is like everybody, of the Jew first, and also of the Goyim, the heathen. But glory and honor and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, and also to the heathen. Okay. this is going to open a lot of stuff up for you, and all you got to do is believe what the word says. Okay? Forget what your church teaches you. The word, go by the word of God in your Bible. Tribulation and anguish upon everyone who does evil. So that's pretty much everybody, I would think, right? Except Yeshua, you could say. The Jew first. So tribulation and anguish go to the Jew first. And also the Goyim. So next it goes to the Goyim. So are they really getting their tribulation and anguish now? No. Are we getting it now? What do you think? 2 years of war, terrorism, all that? Of course. We've been getting it since 1948, really. But definitely in the last 2 years. Okay. And what happens after that? Well, you got to put it together a little bit. Salvation of everyone that believeth, to the Jew first and the Greek. Well, the salvation could mean Yeshua. It could mean redemption. So the Jews get redeemed first. Well, that's what you get from Zechariah 12. Okay. But then again, tell me how you're not a Jew. And you know all these things. I'm really like to hear that. I'm playing with you, but I'm trying to get a lesson through. I have no other explanation for this other than that. Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil, the Jew first and also of the heathen, but glory, honor, and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first. Gentile. Well, it's very unusual to try to, or it's rather difficult, or nothing's impossible with God. But I don't think he's trying to tell us we're going to have tribulation and anguish at the same time of glory and honor. Okay? I don't think he's telling us that. So what he's telling us, when you break it down, is the Jews do evil, so they're going to get tribulation and anguish to Judah first. Judah is Levi and Judah. That's who's in the land now, basically. A little bit of the other tribes like Benjamin, but very small. So the 10 tribes are still lost to this day. This time right now, they don't know who they are. Lost tribes is not a biblical term, but it gets the point across to people. So the glory and the peace come next, Israel. But when that happens, the tribulation and the anguish are going to come on the nations. So you see Elijah training the Levites in Malachi 3 to get the offerings right. You see the temple there. So they get the offerings right, the blessings of the Lord come on Israel. Now, people will say, where's the red heifer, what's going on? But when you tell them blessings of the law, they're going to turn around and say, the Lord is dead. What are you talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is Yeshua in Matthew 5, I think, starting either verse 12 or 17. Think not that I came to destroy the law or the prophets, but to fulfill. You see, they don't read it any further. The next verse says, for as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. The next verse says, to the one that breaks the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But the one that does these commandments and teaches men so shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. That certainly doesn't sound like the law was done away with to me. How about to you? So when you get into the blessings of the law, which you could read about in Deuteronomy 28, all the good stuff comes to us. the Jew gets the bad stuff first. Obviously, that's already happened. Then we get the good stuff first. And they're going to have their trouble. They're going to come to Israel. And they're going to bring the remaining Jews from the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes as an offering unto the Lord, carry them here, transport them here, then stay here as our possession. In other words, slaves. When it says possession, let me give you some graphic, nasty examples just so you understand. I got to beat this in some people's heads, and I'm going to beat it at their heads. Let's go to a very sick example to make the point. Hell's Angels. What do they do when they refer to the Hell's Angels' mom or their women? They refer to the woman as their possession. What did the slave owners do when they had women? Men, slaves, that's my property, my possession. What do the Hell's Angels tell the women when they want to have, be the girlfriend or the wife of the Hell's Angel? They tell him, you could never go to your man and tell him, it's either I come first or the Hell's Angels. If you want Hell's Angels first, I'm leaving. They make it clear the woman can't say that. I don't know what they do to her if she does, but it might get very ugly. Now, it's not just the Hell's Angels. There's a lot of motorcycle gangs do this. They say, you can't do that. And if she wants to do it, she gets rid of it. And then they say, you're his possession. Now, I'm not advocating you do this, okay? I'm not doing that at all. What I'm doing here is telling you, when it says these people that bring us here, the kings and stuff, will stay here as our possession, that's what it means. Like, go back to, 1810 and people had slaves. That's exactly what it means. An indentured servant of some sort is not your possession. A slave would be. And people don't like that, yet it's in the Bible. Now, you take this and you run with it, and you're going to understand what's happening. And pretty soon it's about to pivot. It's culminating. It's building up. God, why does it build up? Because God lets their iniquity, their lawlessness grow to its fullest. Why? So the punishment's at the fullest. Got it? God, Jehovah, Father God in heaven is, and Yeshua is very identically like him, okay? They're very, very merciful. They're very, very loving to those that love them. And Jehovah is very merciful, very generous to those that love him, very protective. To him, somebody like this is a part of his family, a child. He'll go to great lengths to help him and protect him. Okay? And he's rather patient with people, even his enemies, but he's given a 2,000-year punishment to Israel. And he says, where? In Zechariah 1, I think. Let me find it for you. Churches never read the scripture. They should. I mean, it lines up with scripture, but I don't think it lines up with their doctrines too good. Now, what verse in Zechariah 1? That's the question. Well, I guess we start in verse 12, Zechariah 1:12. And the angel of Jehovah answered and said, O Jehovah of hosts. They keep saying hosts. It's armies, okay? And they say the Holy Ghost instead of the Holy Spirit. What kind of garbage is this? We talking about Casper the Friendly Ghost? You know how sick that is to do that? That's satanic. That's how bad it is. That's who translated these English translations. It's Holy Spirit. It's not ghost. He answered and said, O Jehovah of armies, how long will thou not have mercy on um, Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah? Judah is really the Hebrew, against which thou hast had indignation these 70 years. Well, I think he's talking about the Babylon captivity. This is like talking about like the end of the Babylonian captivity, that sort of thing, right? And they didn't have it all together yet, so they weren't, they still had problems. They were trying to build a temple, and one guy would stand there with the sword and watch while the other guy was digging or building. They had problems. Okay. Verse 13. And Jehovah answered the angel, there was Zerubbabel's temple, was the temple they were trying to build then. And Jehovah answered the angel that talked with me with good words. Now, that's how the North American Indians talk. They say good words. You see, lost tribes, North American Indians. Good words and comfortable words. That sounds like the American Indian talk, We don't talk that way. Okay, they talk with me with the Americans don't talk that way. With good words and comfortable words. So the angel that communed with me said to me, cry thou, saying, thus saith Jehovah of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion. Jealous means I want him back. I don't want him serving the devil. I don't want him running around getting lost and not knowing what's going on. I want my children back. Let my people go all over again, kind of, right? Sort of like that. Except Egypt doesn't have us. We're not serving Jehovah yet. Okay. With a great jealousy. He's saying it's a great jealousy. What's the word for great? Gadol. It's great. And what's jealousy? 7068. Kana. Let's see what Strong's zeal, jealousy. Let's see what Strong's has to say about this word. Envy, jealousy. Yeah. Jealousy wants us back. And I am very sore displeased. That this is an understatement. Very sore displeased. Let's pray the words. The first word is katsaf. Angry, wrath or wrath, angry type word, right? Okay. I am. Now the word for very comes up, it's gadol. So let's use gadol the way we used it in the previous verse, which is great. So it's saying, ani gadol, anger or wrath, and then there's another word, what happened here? See, he says it 2 times, but the words are slightly different. Let's see what Strong's deals with. The same root word. The first one is a burst in rage, bursting out in rage. You listen to this, how they lie to you about the translation. So it's saying, Ani, I, speaking of Jehovah, Gadol, bursting out in rage. And then it talks about the next word, which is very similar. Uh, Rage of strife, uh, anger, sore wrath. He's saying he's super duper mad. That's what he's saying. I mean, in our silly parlance, he's saying he's super duper really angry and mad. Why? Then he says, wait, very sore displeased with uh, the heathen, the goyim, the heathen, that are at ease. Yeah, go look at the people in Monaco, what they're doing. Look at the people in Rio de Janeiro. Look at the people in, Beverly Hills and stuff. They're pretty much at ease with that are at ease. For I was but a little saying I was a little angry. What's the word for little? Mayat. Little. He's little. He's a little angry or a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. During the 2,000-year punishment, he wouldn't intervene. So he just let them go at the Jews because he said he would be like an enemy to them for this punishment. But along came 1948 and that seemed to stop, didn't it? They kept punishing Israel, but they kept losing. They weren't winning. But then they would force Israel to give land back and the economy. It was still punishing Israel. And we're in recompenses now, which to say it's a year is not a good way of saying it at all. It's not, the word doesn't really mean a year. It's the way I look at that word is everlasting is olam, for a period of time all the way out in the future without any specificity to it. Okay? So it's, in English we don't have a way of saying that, so we say everlasting. It's not exactly everlasting because everlasting is, you know, you never die, and that happens when we're in New Jerusalem, but not before. So it's sort of okay, but not exactly accurate. But English doesn't exactly have the right word, So anyway, So the Shanat word is not a year; it's like a period of time. But because it's sort of like the saying a year, it's a period of time, kind of indicating it's going to be maybe like a year or something like that. It's not going to be, 85 years, and maybe you can get that implication out of it, I guess. But it's longer than a year. That are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they forwarded the affliction. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies, my house shall be built. Now let's look at that word built. It says shall be built. There's only one word used in the Hebrew, banah. Okay? And how does Strong treat the word banah? The root is to build. It could also mean obtain, make, repair, set up, surely. Okay, he puts it there. He builds it supernaturally and puts it there. Okay. So to say, what is it saying here? My house shall be built in it, saith. All right. Saith, he places it there. I'll show you that in Ezekiel 37. He puts it there. I'll show you that in a minute. Saith Jehovah of hosts, and a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. Cry yet, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of armies, my cities through prosperity, that means wealth, shall yet be spread abroad, and Jehovah shall yet comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem. You have no idea what it means when Jehovah comforts you, and you be comforted, okay? All right. Then lifted I up my eyes and saw, and behold, 4 horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, What are these? Or what be these? What be these? And he answered me, These are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So the 2 tribes, the 10 tribes, and then he names Jerusalem. There is no Jerusalem tribe, okay? All right. Jerusalem is more for the Levites, but it's all the other Israelites use it too. The Levites live there because the temple is there. So I don't believe Jerusalem is dominant living for any of the tribes. Well, it's for all the tribes to use. The temple is there. That's what I'm trying to say. And Jehovah showed me 4 carpenters or workmen. Then said I, What come these to do? And he spake, saying, These are the horns which have scattered Judah. So he's talking about the 10 tribes just went off and they sort of scattered themselves in a sense, in a way. But so then it's saying that Judah got scattered by them, so that no man did lift up his head. These are come the 4 workmen to fray. Fray is not the correct translation. To terrify. Terrify. To terrify them, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles. The animals fight with the horns, so they don't have a way to fight anymore. They can't wage war. Which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. Okay. So who are these 4 workmen? Well, I'll take my best shot. It could be wrong. Enoch and Elijah, the 2 witnesses, Apostle John, who's still here, and the anointed prince that goes to the temple. Those are the 4. And I expect they're all here in Israel now. We're not all getting together singing Hail, Hail, the gang's all here yet, but that's going to happen. And that's what I think. I don't think it's correct to include the glory God of Israel in this, because he's more than that. So God is mad, but he's letting that whole 2,000-year punishment run out because he kind of has to, because he said it, and then we're going to go from the year or the Shanat of recompenses into the day of vengeance. And that day can appear in the it appears in association with the Day of Vengeance and also the Day of Redemption Day, which is Year of Redemption. So let me now, Year of Redemption, does the appearing in the sky last for a year? I never thought of that till this very second. I don't know. I don't think so. We don't know a whole lot. We don't know what it's going to be like to have the everlasting life with everybody knows him in Israel, from the least to the greatest, and he puts the law in our heart, and we have a heart of flesh, and I don't know what we're going to be like. I don't think it ever happened before. He knows, and Yeshua probably understands, and Jehovah understands, but we don't. Pretty, with great certainty, tell you we don't understand what it means. We might think we do, but we don't really know it until we experience it. Okay? We just get an inkling. All right. Well, somebody asked me about gold. I do have the gold price. So the gold price was, I told you, 36.59 a few hours ago. And silver, like a champ, is at 42.43. So how do you buy gold and silver? Well, you're probably gonna buy it locally, okay? Which is your coin dealers and your pawn shops generally have it. You might not want gold, you might want silver, because silver's not that constructive in counterfeit. There's a lot of counterfeit gold. Let me take a break for a minute, and we'll go through how to do this. Okay, you never want to buy paper gold and silver with the stock market. That's moronic. That's for gambling. That's like betting on a racehorse. It's stupid. You don't have gold. You're just betting on what the price is going to do. You don't have any. No, not yet. All right. We got to get into how much you want to invest. If you're going to invest $250,000, you don't want silver because you can't carry it. If you're going to invest a few $1,000s, I'd say get silver. Get silver rounds, silver coins. $1 ounce silver coin, or you can buy half ounces. It's not that constructive to counterfeit the silver. They're going to go after the gold. A 1 ounce gold coin is $3,600. Why should they knock themselves out for a $42 silver coin? Okay. Now, if you buy locally, and something goes wrong, you can go to the district attorney, you can go to the police, you can get a lawyer. If you buy something long distance, they're going to probably want a wire transfer, which is irreversible, or a cashier's check or a money order, and they won't ship until they cash it, so it's irreversible. They probably don't want a credit card. So what happens? You got a hassle from them. If they give you bad coins, they're counterfeit or something, when they're in another state, what do? Well, you could find a reputable one. Yeah, you could. You really could. And they know how to protect themselves, and they're not getting counterfeit stuff. UPS or FedEx brings it to the house. They insure it. I mean, if you were going to buy, let's say 25 of these coins, it would probably be an armored truck that pulls up or something to your house, something like that, which you don't want. Or it might be a guy that's delivery service with a car that carries a gun. Two guys that deliver valuables like this, and I don't know, but probably an armored car. And don't buy any numismatic value where, the silver dollar or gold coin of a certain year is worth. Ignore that. Don't do that. Silver, listen to me, at $42, sooner or later gold's going to start spiking when the current events start going bad. I think. Unless God just destroys everything and it never has a chance. That could happen too. But when the daughter of Babylon goes, gold may go to $10,000 because there'll be such insecurity in the world we have no idea. And when you got insecurity, everybody's going to be thinking gold and silver. What about platinum? Well, most people don't know much about platinum, so I wouldn't do it. The Bible never mentions platinum. It says gold and silver for money. So I'd stay away from platinum, and palladium, stay away completely. Stay away from that stuff. Copper, stay away. What about gems? The problem with gems is you're going to pay 3, 4, 5 times more than what it's worth to a gem dealer. So they're the biggest crooks. Not really crooks. They overprice their goods. It's a bad idea to deal with them. I wouldn't do it. If you were in business, you could do it, but what are you going to do? You want to go trade for food and you show somebody a ruby or, they go, how do I know it's real? It's not a good idea. The gold and silver coins work. Okay? The old coins from America, the Mercury dimes, standing Liberty quarter, they had half dollars, silver dollars, and they had a nickel, but I think the nickel was nickel. Maybe the Buffalo nickel was silver. I can't remember. I don't remember. And they have the coins that are silver. I know the standing Liberty quarters and the Mercury dimes were silver. You could see them worn down. And they sell them, and they're like, I don't know, 80, 90% silver. And they work the ratio with you. And you buy those, you got a small premium on that. But the chances of those being counterfeit is extremely remote. Because what are they going to make, a dime or a quarter or a half a dollar look counterfeit, yet on the outside it has silver and it looks real and it shows worn down, to sell it for what, $42 for an ounce? These things are going to sell for $7, $8. Come on, nobody's counterfeiting that. You understand? Or you could buy bags of those. That's not a bad idea, and people know what that is, and that's sellable. Silver dollars are also very good, excellent. Any kind of silver round, I think you're okay. But then buy it from a guy that's, a pawn shop or a coin store. Make sure the guy's been around, that he didn't open up 6 months ago. Make sure the guy's been around for at least 3, 4 years. You're probably going to be okay. They sometimes charge interesting premiums because, believe it or not, a lot of times there's no inventory for them. They don't have to sell. People are holding. If you can't get, and then you just got to research who's reputable. How can you do that? Call 3 of them up and say, I want to invest in gold or silver, but before we get started, I need to know that you're reputable. How will you convince me you're reputable? Who do I contact to make sure? What third parties do I contact to make sure you're reputable? And talk to 3 different ones, maybe in different states, and see how their references line up, and you'll get an idea what's a real reference and what isn't, and then you can see they're probably going to be okay. Remember, if they ship you the stuff, here's your problem. Oh, we sent him real gold and silver. He's switching it for counterfeit. What do you do then? You see what I'm saying? It's difficult, right? First choice, try to buy local. If you can't get dead local, maybe you got to go to nearby cities. You got to go 30 or 80 or 100 miles even. It might be worth it. Next, that doesn't work. Try to get the guys online, look them up on the internet, ask them about their references, how you find out, and then call 3 and see how they represent their references. And the other thing is, if you big company selling, somebody that's been on, Facebook or, YouTube, one of these places for at least 5 years, and they got like 500,000 followers or something like that. They're probably pretty careful who they're going to promote, so it's probably going to be a decent company, but still check. And you can buy that way, and they send it to you. They'll either use the post office with insurance, or they'll send it to you by courier with insurance. You'll be okay. And then when you get it, you got to figure out what you want to do to conceal it, depending on how much you get. If you're going to buy 25 silver coins, you could just hide it around the house. It's not going to be that big a deal. You can do stuff like that. Okay? All right. So, why should you not be bummed out? Okay. First, why do I know some of you were bummed out? I know because I hit dry nothing in offerings for a few days in a row now. No offerings. And that's not so usual. And why? Because I've been covering the current events, and people sit there and they're trained by the satanic world to think, oh no, this is horrible. You don't understand. This is not horrible. This is necessary. This is good. This has to happen. Or we're not going to get the redemption. We're not going to be living in Israel. We're not going to be the head of the nations. And the whole world is going to be miserable and busted up and sick forever. Is that what you want? With drug addicts, alcoholics, people committing suicide, people confused as to what they are, not knowing who they are, people just despondent and despaired and homeless. Do you know that the elite, let me talk to you about how bad they are. The elite are, of course, Satan bots. They don't buy Louis Vuitton and Chanel and that kind of stuff, right? That's crap to them. That's what the commoners buy that want to emulate them. Okay? They have people that make purses, clothing, shoes, all kinds of clothing, right? Watches, jewelry that you normally never heard of. Okay? You can dig this stuff up by poking around on the internet and YouTube and videos. You'll find out who they are. People know who they are. They generally are not in heavy advertising campaigns like Patek Philippe and Breitling and Rolex, and they're not advertising, okay? They don't have stores in every big city like San Francisco, New York, London, Madrid. No, they don't do that, okay? They're located somewhere, and they'll have a store, or they might have 2 stores. There's people that make sweaters out of cashmere and they make coats and stuff too, but mostly sweaters from cashmere from some goat, and they get the early, baby goat cashmere hairs. This goat only has this kind of cashmere once in his life. He has regular cashmere later on in his life, but this is the first kind, the baby coat. They don't treat the animal abusively to get it. They do it correctly. And it's a super soft cashmere. You get 50,000 US dollars, or it might be euros, for a sweater. I couldn't. I mean, could you afford $50 on a sweater? $50,000. You see how far down they've dragged us? Their goal is to put us in slavery, basically. That's their goal, okay? Basically, that's what happened in the flood. The fallen angels worked with the women. They impregnated them. They had children. They made them tall and bigger than the others. They were maybe 9 to 12 feet. They weren't 100 feet like the King Kong in Hollywood. None of that. And they made everybody like their slave. And that's what they want to do to everybody. And they're well on their way. I'll give you some more examples. At Monaco, which is a collection, that's one of the major hubs of satanic evil in the world. If I tell you what really is going on over there, many of you will not believe it. But I will give you some things that I think some of you may be able to pick up on. Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell have some pretty deep ties to Prince Albert, the monarch of Monaco. So does Trump and his, what does he call it, Melania, has some deep ties over there. Who else? Elon Musk. But it's way sicker. If I explain to you guys how sick it is, you wouldn't believe me. If you want to contact me, I'll tell you. But I don't think you would believe me. Some of you do, and I've told some of you, and you agree with me. They are so sick of it. If you ask me, I'll tell you. All right. But they got these, let's call them long-armed women with large necks that all seem to look kind of the same in a way, dressing the same. But they go around driving expensive. You look at the streets in Monaco and you see cars that probably average at least $500,000. Do you know that Monaco is at the longest stretch would be maybe 1.25 miles or 1.5 miles? It's congested. It's got 39,000 people jammed into it. Do I think you could even go 25 miles an hour in Monaco? Maybe at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Monday night or something, but I doubt it in the daylight hours or in the evening. I think you're probably going at 15 miles an hour. Why is there such a preponderance of cars that go 200 miles an hour? They're driving Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bugattis, which are over $1 million a car. They got Aston Martins. They got a few of the cheapies are buying the high-end Porsches, which could be but you see, that doesn't get you into the club. If you want to get into the club, you need like a $500,000 car. So what are they doing? They're running around with these super expensive cars to show everybody that they're super rich. And what I'm saying, they got a Ferrari dealer there, and the Ferraris are probably averaging $750,000 to $1.5 million. And they're buying those to run around at 15, 25 miles an hour. There's no place near Monaco where you could open up the car like on the Autobahn in Germany. There's no place near there. You start opening up the car in Italy or France, they're going to take you to the Hooskow. You think they're going to let you go 200 miles? They got speed limits. You start going, 10, 20 over the speed limit, they'll give you a ticket. You start going 50 over the speed limit, they'll take you away. They'll take your car, they'll keep your car, they'll sell it. You can't use the thing. What the heck is going on over this? This is a weird place. Weirder than you could think. Some of you might understand long-armed women with long necks. Okay? And it's a sick place, okay? Epstein, Elon Musk, Trump, Melania, Ghislaine Maxwell, gone. But they have men's suits. When you go and you're a man, let's say you're in a big law firm, okay, and you're a partner and you make $3.5 million a year or $1.5 million or something like that, right? And what might you want to buy for your best suits? Well, you might want to go to Brioni and get a few $28,000 suits. Can you tell the difference between a $28,000 suit and say a $1,500 suit? Yes. How? You'd have to touch it. Would you know the difference when you touch it? Hands down. I used to buy, when I was in the world and I made good money, I used to buy the Hart, Schafter, and Mark stuff mostly. And I was quite satisfied with that. Okay, but once I went and I bought a suit on eBay. People sell suits that they buy in various crazy ways, and I bought a Oxford suit, which is where Bill Clinton was getting the suits he had from. And I don't remember what I paid. I paid several $100s for it. I think this is 25, 3 years ago. It was, I think the list price was like a $1,500 suit or something. And when you touched it, you noticed it. It really felt different. And then Hart, Schafter, and Mark has another label, I can't remember the name, that was more expensive, but I think it was the same company. I had some stuff from them too. But, the sport jackets were listing for maybe $500, $600, $800. Nothing. Okay, but these guys, they'll buy a Brioni suit for 28, or they'll buy a Cotone for similar money, or they might go to a custom tailor if they're smarter. And the custom tailor can mimic whatever style you show them out of a fashion magazine. It's easy to do, It's not like going to a car manufacturer. You say, hey, build me a car like this Ferrari. Well, the guy's going to say, well, it's going to cost you $12-15 million, and it's going to take 3 years, No, but the tailor can do that suit, or get a very close mimic of it, easy, And you could find some beautiful fabrics. And you might get out for, I don't know, $1,500, $3,000, something like that. Probably depending on the fabrics, There'd be some really nice suit, And it would probably be as good as a Brioni or a Cotone or something, or a Hugo Boss or a Tom Ford or something like that. These people use good fabric, and the buttons don't fall off of these clothes. They use good thread, and they're you don't have to worry about that. But they're really very expensive, and you're buying the name. You're not buying so much the material. But these people don't go there. These billionaires, okay? Because these suits are in department stores. Okay, Neiman Marcus will have them. Saks Fifth Avenue will have them. Bergdorf Goodman will have them. They're not looking at that. They'll go visit this guy who's likely in Europe. He could be in London. He could be in Switzerland. He could be in Italy. He could be in Paris. He could be in Austria. He could be, different countries. They'll go visit this guy's place. They'll know from their friends, and they'll go in there and open up an account, and they'll take his measurements. Okay? And he'll order suits. And it all depends on the fabric. These guys will sell you suits for $100,000 with crazy fabrics that nobody else has. they also put threads in, like gold and silver and platinum or whatever threads in these things. They'll make they'll make buttons out of real mother of pearl for you, or gold, or silver, or copper, or whatever the heck you want. You know, these people don't buy Louis Vuitton and stuff like that. That's common junk to them that the wannabes have. They buy from people you can't even know about. I mean, if you find out about them and you show up over there and you and the guy has inventory, he'll sell it to you. You want to buy a suit, and he probably sell it to you. He may tell you it takes a few months to get it. He'll put you on the back burner, but he'll do it. I don't see why he wouldn't, unless he's got too much work and he can't, and then he'll tell you he can't. So these wealthy people, but the lawyers will buy these $28,000 suits. They're not going to buy 20 of them at a time. They might buy 3 or 4, and then they might go and buy a bunch of $2,000-$3,000 suits for common use, and stuff like that. Custom shirts, good, really nice, fine cotton. They're $500-$600 a shot, for the good ones. A lot of times your suit tailor will do shirts too. Sometimes no. Sometimes there's people that just do shirts. Now they'll normally also do the ties. And the ties are probably starting at 150, 200, 300, and they probably go up maybe 1,000, 2,000, depending what kind of crazy thing you're getting, right? So they're not, these people are so wealthy. 50,000 for a sweater. They'll buy cashmere coats. They might spend $100,000-$200,000 on a coat. You understand? Not a fur coat. Fur coats, they'll spend even more. They'll spend millions and millions of dollars on bracelets, jewelry, necklaces. What you would consider a retirement luxury home that you would be so proud of, they will spend that much on a watch or a car. Okay? I'm sure that you people listening to me, if you went out and had an $850,000 house, you'd be pretty darn happy with it. I would. In Israel, you wouldn't get much of a house, but in America, you would. Depending where. If you're going to go to New York City, you can get a lousy apartment on the 8th floor with a view of an alley or something, But if you were in another area, you'd get a beautiful place, They'll spend that on a car. All the money you make in your working life, they'll spend on a boat. Or you make in 40 years, they'll drop on a boat, even less than you make. You don't even make as much. You probably, what you do your whole life to earn, they'll throw in a boat, and probably the boat is double or triple what you earned in your life, So what you and your wife and your kids earn your whole life, they'll put in a boat, and that's not even a big. Then comes the airplanes and the helicopters. Guys, you're living like a dog. They're treating you like garbage, and you don't know it. They poisoned you with TV. They poisoned you with the internet. People don't know they're living like slaves. What do these people want to do? They want to get a good job. Do these elite, do they want to go become lawyers and doctors? No, they don't want any of that. Sometimes they study law or something. The family makes them go to college and stuff like that. So what do? They go to work every day in their factories and the businesses that they own? No. They don't work. They'll have an office. Let's say there's a corporation that's worth, $800 billion that they happen to own a lot of shares of stock in. They'll get a seat on the board of directors, or they might be the chairman of the board or whatever. They're being on the board. There might be 10 or 12 people on the board, and they got maybe 2 or 3 meetings, or 4 or 5 meetings if things are bad or interesting or expanding. And they'll go to those meetings. That's about it. And they might have lunches and dinners with some of the other board members during the year as things pop up, but they don't go in. They got a secretary that will give them summaries of who called and what the purpose of the call was, and if they want to call them back, and they'll have an assistant that does that, this type of thing. But they don't go to work because they're sitting on the board of maybe 5 big, huge companies. And then what do? They have one company they're an owner of with a lot of stock, sell product to another company they own. So they have their own companies trade with each other, so they make even more money. You got it? And they buy companies that fit into this mold. So they don't waste their time learning how to run the financial department, how to run the legal department, or how to run the production, the management, or how to run the marketing, or how to run finance. That's garbage for them. That's like you going to school to learn how to mow the lawn. You hire a guy to mow the lawn. So they're not interested in that stuff. So there's precious little reason for them to an office every day because they're not interested in any of that. That kind of person. I mean, what does a chief financial officer of these big corporations make? Well, he might make a few $1 million a year. He might make 20 million a year, or 12 million, or 30 million. What do they make? 250 million a year, or 89 million a year, or something. They make multiple times more than that guy makes. They make more than, by far, they make a lot more. They're loaded, okay? And there's loads of these people, and some of them don't even bother. They usually will go to the board of directors meetings if they're well invested in the company, or they might just have their lawyer go. They may not go. They got lawyers to take care of these rich people, okay? Let me explain. These are law firms that usually will have maybe up to 12 lawyers, okay? Do these lawyers go to court and file lawsuits and sue and no, they don't go to court. They're above going to court. What they do for the rich is they hire the appropriate law firm to handle the lawsuits for their rich clients. So the rich clients don't have to waste their time worrying about it. So if there's a lawsuit, their guy finds out about it, their law firm, and he goes ahead with a power of attorney and manages the lawsuit by hiring the right law firm, which is going to be one of these law firms with 500 or 1,000 lawyers, and the senior partners are making, $1,500 an hour and stuff like that. That's the rich paying for their protection. So if it's another super rich person suing them and they got bad blood and they hate each other's guts, the lawsuit will go on for a while, and then it'll probably settle, or they'll make up and it'll go away or something like that. But it probably won't go to trial because it's too public and disclosing and they won't like it. But if it's some poor person suing them, or some small business or regular business that's not so small suing them, they just have their lawyer hire a big law firm, and the big law firm goes to work against the corporation, who probably has a big law firm too. And it may go to trial, and then it may go to appeal, or it may settle, or it may just, the lawsuit may fall apart and it goes away, and they don't concern themselves with these things. Now, if they did something wrong and they're being chased for a lawsuit that could cost them, you know, even $250 million. If you got $40 billion and you lose 250 million, so what? You see, they still aren't going to stop going out on the yachts and stuff like that. Okay, they got so much that they could do. They don't want to bother themselves in business. What can they do? They have art collections in their houses. They have hundreds of millions of dollars of artwork, and they like to sit and stare at this crap, right? Okay? And show each other, look what I got, right? Not just paintings, they get sculptures, you know, all kinds of art, right? They don't care. Then they got to go get their, you know, they get involved in charities, so they go to charity meetings where they nod with each other and they give money and they kid around with each other. They like to get along with each other and know each other because they like having their companies do business with each other. And they work deals with each other and they like it, you know? And then they got to be friends with somebody. They can't isolate. So who are they going to be friends with? The other billionaires, you know? Then they go around and they got they like, some of them like sporting events. They like to play racquetball. They like to play golf. They like to swim. They like to ride horses. They like to fly airplanes. They like to ski. They like 3 or 4 of these things. So they're busy doing these things. They enjoy it, right? Some of them like going hunting and skeet shooting. Some of them just like going, living in the wilderness and going fishing, trout fishing or something. Some of them like going deep sea fishing. You know, they pursue their athletic pursuits, right? Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro or whatever they want to do, right? Okay, what do others do? Well, a lot of them like, they go shopping. They like to keep their wardrobe sharp. So they're constantly going around buying clothing and you know, add-ons like hats and belts and cufflinks and watches, and you know, they're doing that stuff. A lot of them are car nuts. They go around buying cars. They go to auctions. Um, they're just, you know, a lot of them like traveling and seeing the world, and a lot of them are paranoid. Then they sit in their estate and they got, you know, 12 bodyguards on duty every shift, and they like staying home because it's safer for them. They're fearful of getting kidnapped and assaulted. So they stay in the house with their bodyguards more than anything. And when they do travel, it's a process. There's 3 cars with bodyguards all armed, and they don't know which one he's in. And then they go to an airport, they go in the hangar, he gets in the plane, and then the plane takes off, and then bodyguards meet him with other armored cars. You know, that's how they operate. You know? So they don't even work. They don't even work. And a lot of them, they design houses. They like their own, not for other people, they like their own houses. So, you know, these typical people like this can have 3 or 4 houses, okay? In each house, they keep a wardrobe. They don't go traveling with 10 suitcases. They keep wardrobes in each house for the right climate, you know? They keep jewelry in each house. They keep servants every day of the year in each house, okay? These are beautiful mansion type houses, and they go around the house. And they got different airplanes. They own more than one airplane. They got different yachts. They keep one in the Mediterranean. They keep one in the Caribbean. They keep one in Asia. They might keep one in the Middle East, or who knows where, right? usually what I hear is the popular places would be Asia, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. Also, Southern California is another popular area, and a lot of them keep them in New York. They go out in the winter on the yachts. It's very rare you would ever see ice of any substance in New York, maybe once every 100 years or something, if at all. So they go out, 180, 250 foot or 300 foot yacht, and they'll take it out in the winter over there and put the heater on. And, I don't think it'd be very pleasant going out in the yacht in the winter. You'd have to stay inside, but they might like it. I wouldn't. So what they do is if they got to work in New York, let's say they're working for some reason, they got business deals in New York, and they have a nice, 5,000, 6,000 square foot, duplex or triplex apartment there, and they got to take care of some businesses they got to deal with, and then they get out of there. Unless they like the winter. There's people that like the winter. There's people that hate sweating, and they like it. So what can you do in New York? They can go see plays, ballet, orchestra recitals, different musicians, art exhibitions, museums, tons of things. I mean, there's millions. There's stuff going on every day in New York. So they got tons of things they can keep themselves occupied with. So these people are in a different world than your run-of-the-mill millionaire, and they separate themselves. The run-of-the-mill millionaire is a working grunt for them. Okay, that's it. Even though they got 100, 200, $300 million, they're a working grunt for them because they got money. And these other people are workers. They get up in the morning and they go to work. He's the chief financial officer. He's the vice president or executive vice president in charge of marketing, or executive vice president in charge of advertising, or chief accounting officer, or something like that. They go to work. Maybe they let them on Wednesday. They don't go in. Sometimes they go play golf because it's important for them to have their social contacts, which help them in business. Or maybe they go in on Wednesday after lunch, they come at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Why? They go play golf, and then they have lunch at the club after they shot the links, and then they take a shower, and they put their suit on, and then they go into the office for a few hours. That's real common. Wednesday is the big day they do that. They break the office up. They break the week up. But there's still workers, and then these people are going out to company dinners, and they're going to weekend meetings, and they're workers that get paid millions of dollars. But you can't get to the status of these multi-billionaires that are in the dozens or hundreds of billions. You can't get where they are. You won't even get close. You're not going to have a 350-foot yacht like Jeff Bezos or something. Jeff Bezos doesn't even work anymore. He got rid of it. He doesn't even go to work at Amazon. See, they don't work. They stop working. You're not going to buy where are these guys going to go buy a 350, 450-foot yacht? What's something like that going to cost? It's probably going to cost at least 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, that's something, depending how they do it. At least $100 million. Well, these guys don't have 100 million to put on a boat. You put, 15, 20 million on a boat, maybe, or nothing like that. They could buy Ferraris and stuff like the super wealthy, but not that many of them, but they could buy them. They don't go around buying houses for, 50, 60, $100 million. They can buy houses for 10, 12 million. They're not in the same league. And the distinction is there. Okay? With cars, what are you going to do? You can't go tell a car maker to make you a special car that nobody else has. It's impossible. You can't do that. How you get parts, insurance, government certification, you can't do it. So the car market, they're all buying the same cars. And cars can only cost so much, so they could even, the super rich could buy 800, the guys that make, 15, 20, 30 million a year, they could buy a $850,000 car, $1 million car if they want to. They could do it. They could buy two of them if they want to. They could do it. Okay. And over the few years, they keep the cars. They don't have to sell them. So they got 2 or 3 Ferraris, 2 or 3 Aston Martins. It builds up a collection. They can do that too. They could buy expensive wristwatches. They could even buy the $1 million ones, but they can't buy the houses, the boats, the cars. They can't buy it all. They can't buy the helicopters. They can't get a big yacht that, these big yachts got 50, 75 people working on them. 12 months a year, the guys are on that yacht. And what do they do? Now, there is a way, and you don't go out that much. You got yourself a captain, you got a co-captain, you got an engineer that takes care of the motors and the hydraulics and the pumps and the electric. Then you have another executive crew guy that maybe takes care of the decks and stuff, right? So you got about 4 people that are really taking care of the boat and know what they're doing. And these 4 people you're going to want to put on your payroll 12 months a year. And you're probably going to put a cook in there, what you would call a crew cook, not a gourmet cook for you. You're going to put a crew cook up there with them that'll feed them, because they're basically living on the boat. They got their own cabins and they living on the boat, right? So they don't pay rent, they don't pay for food, they don't pay for utilities, they don't get everything, so they get paid nicely. So, but then when you want to take the boat out, what you do is you call these services up, and they'll give you, for a big boat like that, you'd need 4 or 5 stewardesses at least, and you would need probably 1 or 2 extra cooks, and you would need 10 deck hands. And they don't want to hire these kind of people because they don't know them, and the people don't know who they are, and their security background checks that would have to go through all of them, and they can't. So they have a permanent crew that they pay every year. So the payroll for a big boat could be $4 million a year. Okay? These people don't care. They want their boat ready whenever they want to go. They want the boat in constant A1 condition. Okay, whenever anything needs service, they get it fixed. So the boat's always fuel. They probably keep it at least half full always, so they could go thousands of miles without tanking up. Or they don't burn a lot of fuel staying at the dock. They run a generator only, and that's it. They could also get power from the dock, but they got to run certain motors in the boat to keep everything going. Then they don't care, and they keep food in the freezers and the refrigerators. So anytime the guy just says, "I want to get away," and he just says, "I'm coming to the boat, I'll be there later this afternoon," then the crew they're ready. The guy comes, they say, "Sir, where do you want to go?" And, "Okay, give me a little time, I'll map a plot, and we'll shove off in an hour or 2 hours or whatever." "Okay, go ahead." That's it. That's the nice thing about having that. And then it's even nicer when you got one boat in Europe, you got another boat In the Caribbean, you got one on the West Coast, and maybe you have one in Asia if you go to Asia. So, and you keep your crews on here. I doubt very many of these groups got more than one boat like that they keep well stocked. Although Jeff Bezos has 2 or 3 yachts, so they have one. They might have a few yachts. This Elon Musk got some kind of super yacht like nobody else has that he just got, and it's a huge thing. They're literally 50, 75 people working on the boat. And they have their own security detail that's permanently on the boat. So they'll probably have, 3 or 4 guys for security. That would be to protect them from anything, including the workers on the boat. Um, so there's people that, see, we don't think that the regular people don't know what's really going on, how bad they really have it. They don't know. It's sad. It's sad. They don't know. And the other thing is sad is that people like us don't know how good you'll have it. You know how good you'll have it? I can tell you how good you'll have it. You'll be like the super rich. Or you'll be extremely rich. You'll be very wealthy very quickly. And you're not going to be working that hard. You'll be working like them. You'll be overseeing and stuff like that. They'll be doing the work, not you. You'll be owning the businesses. And why is this going to work? Well, I don't know how to run a business. And yeah, but your Heavenly Father does. Do you think there's any business that could ever exist on earth that Jehovah doesn't know intimately about? I remember once I was practicing sword fighting, and the Lord was talking to me, and he said to me, I know a lot about sword fighting. And I stopped and I said, my gosh, why am I not going to Jehovah for information about sword fighting? Why am I going elsewhere? He knows more than anybody. See, we're so screwed up that we don't even know how to give Jehovah enough credit for everything. So why are you bummed out? All these things have to happen. Billions of people are going to die. It has to happen. You and your house will be safe. Remember that happened to the jailer, okay? When they got out of jail, when the Lord, got him out of jail, and they told you and your whole house will be safe. Do you think that's been canceled? And when we hit redemption, that doesn't exist anymore? Why do you think that? So you're all sitting there saying, oh, my spouse, my children, they're not safe. You might be very surprised. You and your whole house shall be safe. Now, does that apply to your 42-year-old daughter and their own family? And maybe not. Maybe yes, maybe not. I don't know. You could ask the Lord. My thought is not. I think it's the ones that still live with you. So if you had a 29-year-old daughter or son living with you, probably would apply, I guess. Okay, so you're gonna have a body that I don't think we're gonna sleep. Everything's gonna work right. Everybody's gonna be super handsome and super beautiful. You're not gonna have any flaws or blemishes. Okay. On top of being wealthy, you're gonna have all this. You imagine the kids that come from a family with $79 billion, right? And the kid's 22, 23 years old, graduated college because the parents wanted him to go, and then the father says, okay, I'll give you an allowance. Well, how much, Dad? Well, I'll give you $1 million a month. Okay? So this guy's running around with a stipend. He gets $1 million a month, no taxes, right? And he's young. I wouldn't know what life is like that, but you will in a few days or weeks or whatever, you'll know what life is like. You see, we're going to have more than they ever had. We're going to have it better than them. Okay? We're not going to have it as good as them. We're going to have it at least twice better than the super elite rich. You watch. Because they don't have peace. Go to Monaco and you don't see a whole lot of people smiling. There's people that walk around the streets, they're taking videos. You see some people have talking and maybe they're smiling a little, but you'll see tremendous amount of young, what appears to be women, without any men over there. That's what got me scratching my head. It's very abnormal. And you're going to have peace and joy and happiness and huge families, and you're going to have this everlasting life at the same time as the wealth and riches, and you're going to have Jehovah pulling for you. I mean, they haven't had any of this. They had a little piece of it, that's it. So why are you bummed out? When people don't send offerings in, it's because they think I'm sitting there reading them the doom and gloom, the fear porn. I'm not. I'm doing this to show you how close we are, so you get excited and you feel good and rejoicing and get to where, wow, it's coming, it's finally here, I can't believe it, this is great. And I know there's a lot of us are like that. Oh yeah, we're so close, this is great, I can't wait, I'm happy, I like it. Okay? There's a lot of us like that. I communicate with them. But I'm afraid there's a lot that are not like them. And they're not understanding it. And that's the problem. They're not understanding it. So I'm trying to help you. You'll probably have quite a few decades of rest. I would think probably 40, 50 years. We'll still have to do some fighting after redemption, but that would be just probably during the year of redemption. We'll redeem our land back to ourselves, and then you just be resting and having a good time raising families. You're not going to be on the internet doing, computer games or watching junk on YouTube or trying to figure out how the world's falling apart now. You'll be, and it'll be about family, like it always was until about 35 or 45 years ago. And it became about, well, actually, it started around 1950 when people started getting TVs. That was when people started withdrawing. People would watch the TV. Well, the TV was so boring back in the early days. There wasn't very much to watch. And there was no streaming. You couldn't decide what you wanted to watch. You put the TV on and you picked from whatever was out there. People were, beggars can't be choosers, right? So you were begging to watch something. It was all free. You didn't pay for cable. They didn't have cable. And you had advertisements that were there all the time. But the way they did the advertisements was they tried to make them entertaining. And a lot of them were not. Like they used to do Pets evaporated milk. They were trying to convince the women of America that they needed to buy evaporated milk. I don't know why they thought they could do that. So anyway, be rejoicing. What does it say? Lift up your head. Your redemption draweth nigh. When you see these things, you're seeing the things. Lift up your head. Your redemption draweth nigh. Start watching for him appearing in the clouds, and then you're going to have everlasting life, and you'll be rich, you'll be peaceful, you'll have a big family, you'll a huge amount of friends, associates, family. You'll be very, very happy. And then the dry bones will come to life and come to Israel, resurrected, and they'll come to Israel, and you'll be able to talk to them about what happened thousands of years ago, and they'll tell you. How's them apples? That'd be fun too. That'd be really nice and talk to you. Everybody will be speaking Hebrew. Everybody will have a good time. No more Satan bots. He says he runs the demons out of Israel. It's in the beginning of Zechariah 13. So you're not going to have you're not going to have any Satan bots in Israel. Imagine that. If you want to bum yourself out, go ahead. But, if you're with Jehovah and you understand this is Jehovah's plan and his way, why are you getting bummed out? He doesn't want you to get bummed out. When the daughter of Babylon, America, gets destroyed, they celebrate in heaven. They celebrate. And you want to be depressed about when it gets destroyed. Why? You're going against the grain. You're going against heaven. Why are you doing this to yourself? God always knows what's better for you. Better than we know what's best for us. He knows. That's when I see there's no offerings for days in a row. I tell myself, uh-oh. They think I'm giving them doom and gloom and fear porn for some reason, and I'm not. I'm giving them the reality, and it's being interpreted wrong. Okay? So I hope I helped. That's what I'm trying to do, comfort you, my people. I hope I helped. And my Jehovah, I ask you to pour out upon the true believers that follow this channel and walk in the true gospel and have the true gospel. I pray you pour out your spirit on them with your peace, your joy, your calm, your rest, the gifts of the Spirit, comfort and joy. And I pray you relieve them of their problems, lift the problems from them, be they financial, be they from family, neighbors, workers, co-workers, employers, businesses, corporations, governments, family, anything. Lift their problems from them. Give them calm and rest and joy, and help them to understand that these are good things that are happening, not bad. And we're walking with you. You're not trying to punish us. Let them know that and understand that you're not going out and punishing us. We're in the correct gospel. Why would you want to punish us? You're not, and they need to know that, and they need to know all the good things that are coming, and be focusing on that rather than the bad stuff. And those signs are stacking up: the drought, all the violence in the land. And when we see these things happen in America, we know the second Exodus is going to happen extremely quickly, because America is going to be destroyed, and the people got to get out so they don't get punished along with the evil ones. So I've talked them through that in Jeremiah 50 in the beginning. So I ask you for these things for them, Lord, for peace and joy, calm, rest, patience, happiness for them and their households. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you could agree with me in this, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And my Heavenly Father, I pray for your peace, safety, protection, and blessing to be on me and my wife and all the true believers walking in the true gospel. and that we would be, and our animals and pets and ourselves would be happy, healthy, and whole, and safe and secure, and we would understand the scriptures. And I pray that I would be able to do better videos, and I pray that the two witnesses start operating and running Israel very soon. I pray for mercy and grace on all of us, my Heavenly Father. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree with that, even though it might be a video. And I pray, and I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. I hope I helped you. I hope. I tried. I don't want to see you bummed out. There's no point in that. You should be looking at this, and when you see all these signs happening, you know you're getting close to the proverbial pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and then everything's going to be really, really much better than you ever had it in your life. And I end at that, and I'm out.